Hello, friends. This is Lisa Wade, and I am so excited that you're joining us for another edition of Dirt Road Divinity, the scenic route of the soul. Today, I am so happy to be joined by a new friend, and I'm thinking long-time soul sister,
For sure.
Alayna Love, who you've had your own fascinating journey with the divine, embracing, living into all that means. And it hasn't necessarily been a paved in gold kind of path.
Not at all.
Gotten a little messy and a little hard, but you're a trooper. And here you are, strong and powerful and shining your light in the world and helping others to do the same. And I am so excited that you're here.
You're so sweet. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you. And I'm so glad that we connected. At the first conversation we had, I was like, oh yeah, we're definitely soul sisters. I think I even said to you, like, we're going to do lots of work together. I just knew it.
And I am looking forward to that.
Me too.
You know, I went and did a little stalking, I'll admit, on your business page, Alayna Love. And one of the things that jumped out to me immediately was how you described yourself as an oracle of divine love. And I just went, ooh, that feels so juicy and yummy. And I love that. And what the hell does that mean?
Thank you.
What does it mean to be an oracle of divine love?
So I started my journey as an intuitive, and then that moved as I started to expand my gifts and download more of my gifts. I realized, okay, I'm not just an intuitive, I'm also a channel. And then I realized that there was also energies coming through. And so it's not just that I'm channeling messages, I'm channeling healing, I'm channeling frequencies. And I also open portals to other dimensions and timelines and collapsing. And so I was like, well, what word encapsulates all of this? And it's an oracle. And I realized I connected with a book by a woman named Mama Zogby about the Sibyls. And the Sibyls were ancient oracles and priestesses in like pre-Roman times. And I was like, that's it. I'm a priestess and an oracle. And it was a long journey to get there. It's a long journey to be able to own that and to be able to open up to that. But, you know, now I really feel like I stand in it. And it's just beautiful to just be open.
I think you might be
open conduit, speak through you and to just move through you.
I love that.
Thank you.
Just a little technical. There we go.
Too much energy. Too much energy.
It will happen. You start blowing light bulbs. Fortunately, you're outside. You're not going to blow the sun. So we're all good. We're all good. So one of the things that I love just in reading a little bit that you've shared about your story is you've been through some shit. I mean, you know, 3 near-death experiences, having to deal with health challenges that have been significant. I know just in our conversations, there have been some relationship challenges that maybe, you know, would have had an effect of shutting you down rather than helping you bloom. You've been through it. And you talk about being a hot ass mess and still being on the path.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
You know, I've been a seeker. I've been on the spiritual journey since 2008, I would say. I've been a seeker my whole life, but seriously, since 2008. And I would look at these videos and these coaches, and they would have these beautiful setups and offices. And I have 3 kids, 5, 3, and 1. And you know, for the last year, I'd have spit up on my shoulder. There'd be a baby crying in the background. You know, somebody is always fighting. And I was like, you know, and then on top of that, my own health stuff, my own mental health issues, my own sensitivities, because as my spiritual gifts started to expand, guess what? I got really sensitive to fabrics and clothing and chemicals and people and energy. And I just said, you know what? I know that what I have to offer is what people are praying for. I know that I have these gifts because they need to be shared. And my gift really at the very, very base of it is that I see you the way the heart of God sees you. And I know that people need that. People need that. And it was a choice. I could either decide to shutter my light until my kids were old enough to be somewhere and to be, away, or I could just let you into my mess and say, you know what? I still have light for you. I still have gifts for you. And you know what? Even in your mess, even in the midst of whatever it is you're going through, you still have gifts to give. Now, the caveat that I give with that, though, is you do also have to be responsible with your own healing. You can't just say, oh, I'm a hot ass mess. I'm just going to go out here and bleh, just give it all away, because I think that there are a lot of people who do that as well. They are not processing their own stuff. And so, because they're so busy giving to other people. And what I have found for me is when I am true to my path and my healing, I attract people who need the medicine that I just got for myself. So literally, I work with a group of women who I call my loves, my lovies. And, it is amazing to me. I never know. We get together once a week. I never know what the message is going to be. I never know what the download is going to be. But like with this full moon in Pisces, yesterday I was literally in the fetal position in the bed. My body was like shutting down. I was in pain. I was like a weepy, sobby mess. And I just knew, I'm purging and I'm processing. But through talking with my coach and then talking with one of my clients, I realized, oh, this Pisces full moon is pulling up all of these soul wounds, these, that last little bit at the bottom of your heart that you just sort of tucked away and been like, no, I dealt with that 2 years ago. And for me, I was angry with God.
Yeah.
I was angry with God because I'm like, I have been through so much. I have sacrificed so much. I have been obedient. Why don't I have the things that I want? And in talking with my coach, I realized it's light worker rage that I was feeling.
Ooh. Talk to me about that.
Light worker rage is I have sacrificed everything for the light. I have come here to be the light, to embody the light. I have walked away from family. I have walked away from friends, relationships. I have just, gone through it for the promise of heaven on earth. Now, damn it, where is it?
Yes.
And it's just this thing that we as light workers, I think, say, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. But we also have to deal with the fact that our human side doesn't like it, doesn't understand it, doesn't understand why things don't happen the way we think they should and when they think they should, and why the world is going crazy when we know that the light has won.
Yeah.
And so it was just this, like, I literally called in my angels and guides and was like, we got to have a come to Jesus.
Love it.
Because I was so angry. One of the things that has been challenging for me is that I'm self-taught. I didn't have a mentor or a teacher. I've had coaches along the way in different phases of my life, but I didn't have someone who said, oh, I identify you as an oracle, as a channel. This is the path. These are the challenges. It's the shaman's journey. And we're taking these journeys without a teacher, without a mentor. Whereas in ancient societies, we would have been brought into the temple. We would have been brought, to the shaman and raised by them so that we would know and understand our gifts. We don't have that now. We have each other. And so, for me, the most recent episode was that, I was seeing this guy and I'm hearing his inner self and I'm hearing how he feels about me, but yet he's not showing up that way. And I was like,
Yeah.
either it's going to be right or it's not. Like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not going to create, because what it was doing was creating confusion for me about my gifts.
Yep. Oh, sister, I've been there.
Yes.
In terms of you trust, You
Yeah.
hear, you trust, you feel, but yet there's a part of us that wants to see the best in other people, or because we're seeing and connecting with the soul, often we're
Yes.
connecting with the soul more than they're connecting with the soul in their own
Yes.
ethereal experience. And that can
Exactly.
be so hard, when we're like, "Ugh, but you're right there."
Right
You're
there.
right there. And yes,
Exactly.
I so
Yeah.
hear how that can be painful. Painful.
Yes. And so frustrating because, I was just confused because this is not the first time. And I'd gotten to a place where I was like, I connect with a part of them that they're not conscious of.
Yeah.
And I get that. But this time it felt like he was conscious of it,
Mhm.
and we were dreaming together. And that's what I realized, that now, because I'm embodying more of my higher self, we were dreaming this next phase of our lives together, even though we won't be sharing that in the physical.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And when I realized that, and really the last, I would say last night and today has just been this like unfolding for me of our soul's relationship and how we do this for each other every lifetime. We come into each other's lives after we've been on very difficult assignments, divine assignments, and we help each other to heal and to dream the next phase of our lives. And so, now I have nothing but gratitude and love and, peace. But the human side of me was like, I want him. And I want him to be the him that I know in here.
Yeah.
So we really are navigating many, many worlds at once. And when you're doing it with no guidebook, with no guidance, and then running in the background, because for me, someone who I would say I've always been intuitive to some extent, but not very conscious of it until probably the last really conscious, like it's been blaring the last 2 years.
Mhm.
But before that, it was just the subtle stuff. And so in the back of my mind was always, what if I'm schizophrenic? What if
Yeah.
this is mental illness? Because in my family, that's what being spiritually gifted, because they were not awake, was equated to. This is mental illness. And so when you have that, am I crazy? Am I just making this up? When you don't have that support to really count, to anchor yourself in and your gifts in, then you're really floating adrift. And that's why I started my group, because I didn't want anybody else to have to go through this. I wanted women, and I do work with some men one-on-one, but they're not really part of the group yet.
Mhm.
Men, if you're out there, you're welcome. Um, but I wanted to help support people as they open up to their spiritual gifts, as their heart opens, as their soul opens, and they open up to this whole different dimension and way of being that we're not taught.
Yes.
We've never been taught. And so, it's really beautiful to see how, when you're committed to the work, how you can just unfold. And it's not easy. But what I learned was that I don't have to suffer in it.
Yeah.
Just
So,
because I'm healing doesn't mean I have to suffer. And it doesn't have to be prolonged. I can move through it quickly when I'm willing to face it.
yes.
It's
Yes.
when I'm like, ooh, I don't want to look at that. Ooh, I don't want to look at
It's going to hang on and just take longer to get through. And I
that.
so appreciate that you mentioned the aspect of support or lacking support, or how so often we have to create our own support. Um, Living in Oklahoma, one of the reasons I was guided to do this program, the Dirt Road Divinity, was to help people see that there are other paths to the divine. And I think you may have frozen up. And if you did and you can hear me, you might need to call back in. I don't know. Um, but that there are other paths to the divine, and they might not look like some neat little box that we learned in Sunday school when we were a kid. That it can be a different road, it can be a different path, and that's okay. I'll be honest, when I got the push to do this live program, I felt a little bit like being thrown to the wolves. She must have lost connection. She'll jump back on, I'm sure. Felt a little bit like I was being thrown to the wolves and wondering, oh, geez, if we start talking about these things, is the crazy, moniker going to be thrown? Are people going to think whatever? And what I found instead is that the people who reach out see some part of themselves in the conversations that we have. It's like through showing a variety or a diversity of different paths to the divine, of different dances with the divine, different ways of interacting with that spiritual side of ourselves, that we actually have an opportunity to see ourselves as part of the bigger picture, or see how we're navigating spirit as part of a bigger picture. And so that's why I love having people on the program who come from a very different different perspective and have different things to share. Hey, you're back.
Hi. I'm overheated. It's your phone done that before.
Your energy is high today.
For sure.
It wasn't a matter of blowing light bulbs. We're just going to overheat the phone. Got like Captain Marvel hands. I love it.
I was like, what is happening? Oh my gosh. Sorry. So sorry.
Hey, I just kept flapping my jaw. I was like, she'll be back. It's all good. But what I was saying was that the idea that sometimes it does feel like a lonely path, and we have to create kind of our own circle. And when I got the divine nudge to do even just this, Facebook Live programming, part of it was to help people see that there's not just one path or one way of interacting with the divine, or one way for a spiritual journey to look. But instead, there's a whole lot of different ways. And maybe we might see some part of our journey in somebody else's story. But I kind of felt like I was being thrown to the wolves too.
Yeah. Well, what I have realized is that God is God individually for all of us. And so when someone says, this is what God is, they're telling you their God, their version. And for me, I refer to God as she, because more than most times I hear a woman's voice speaking to me, but that's because I feel like God knows I need a mother.
Yep.
And so God is so loving and concerned about us that she individualizes her experience of herself for us. And and I think we really do each other a disservice when we say there is only one path or a few paths, because there are as many paths as there are people, beings, because we live in an infinite creation with an infinite creator. And so but the main thread is love.
Absolutely.
That's what it comes down to. It's love. And when I really started, I'll tell you my first experience. It had been just a really tough time. I had left California, left my husband, went to live with my mom. That blew up really badly. And I was living in an empty rental unit. It was a home I owned, but my tenant had just moved out. And I was so traumatized that I was literally sitting in the walk-in closet in the master bedroom. I would wake up and I would go sit in the closet because I just couldn't. I was so traumatized. And I heard God's voice. You stop being so hard on yourself and you let yourself have a good life.
Oof.
Right? And I got chills just saying it. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
You stop being so hard on yourself and you have a good life. And that was the beginning of really my path to becoming an oracle and opening up and really establishing my relationship with God. Because for me, who had been this little girl who loved church because I always felt God there, I used to cry in church. And my mom was like, why are you sad? I'm not sad. I'm not sad. Like,
happy tears.
Don't you feel it? Don't you feel God everywhere? And to go from that to wondering if God was even real. I really went through a very long period where my prayers weren't being answered. I was still praying, but I wasn't sure if anybody was hearing.
Yep.
And, you know, being really caught up in these thought viruses, one, that God is not real, two, that nothing is real. You know, I think that one is a particularly dangerous one. But when I had that experience, it shifted everything. Everything. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, you read people and it was just like, oh, my life got better overnight. I wanted that. It didn't happen. But I got my foundation. I started to rebuild my foundation. And what I realized was that by losing my ex, by losing my mother and my mother's side of the family, I gave up false idols. I gave up the people that I was trying to please so that I could see myself being reflected in their light, in their love. They just aren't capable. They just were never going to be able to do that for me. And God knew that and saw that, you know, because I'm a Capricorn and I am who I am, I would have just to the death, I would have just hung in there.
Yep.
But God made it so uncomfortable for me that I had no choice. I felt like I had no choice. We always have choices, but I felt like I had no choice. But in that process, I found myself. I found God. I found real love, which is me, you know, and now I'm able to reflect that light back to my clients, you know, in the grocery store, wherever I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, there's still things about myself that I'm working through and healing. And, you know, and I tell people, like, I'm not perfect. You know, I talk to my clients about what I'm struggling with, what I'm going through, because I never want anyone to feel, I know what it's like to feel like you're the only one who is not getting it right.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just not true. We're all doing the very best we can with what we know. And one of the things that came out of that experience was realizing how powerful the ego is. You know, I went to a retreat in Mexico and I'm sitting on a pyramid and I'm hearing my higher self download to me. The ego is very powerful magic. And only the soul of that ego can change it. So when you're talking to people's egos, they don't even hear you. Because the ego will, what I started to find when I started to really seriously get into like the throes of awakening, if someone would say something to me that was beyond what my ego could comprehend or would let in, it would sound like Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah.
Wah, wah, wah. Yep.
And I would say, you know, can you say that again? Wouldn't matter. Could not hear it. And so when I was going, baby, I'm not going to let you outside. You don't have clothes on. That's my 5-year-old.
Our last conversation, I saw naked butt. It was great.
Yes. Yes.
Like, there, not yours.
Yes.
I love it. Life stays real
family.
wherever you are on the path. You know, and that's the thing with life right now. It's not like we can go hang out in some cave on the top of a mountainside like the monks did back in the day.
Yeah.
This is like real life, you know, I mean, trying to
mystery school.
Yeah, embody mystery school, but without being cloistered. It's where we're dealing with all the energies, all the 3D challenges, all the people who can be challenged, our own thoughts and our own ego.
Yes.
You know, navigating all of this.
Yeah. My guides have called this the toughest game in the universe.
Yeah.
This is the toughest game in the universe, to wake up from duality, to wake up from separation while being a householder, while being a parent, while being an entrepreneur. Because I tell people, you think being an entrepreneur isn't a spiritual journey? I got news for you.
Yep.
It totally is. Totally is. And then especially if you're trying to do a spiritual business, because it's you are outing yourself. All that stuff that we did as monks and as nuns in cloistered communities, you know, in other lifetimes, we're doing now in front of the world, in front of the internet, in front of our children, you know, and we're saying, this is who I am. I am an oracle of divine love. I am a priestess of the goddess, you know, and this is what I came here to embody. And guess what? I still fuck up.
Amen.
You know, I'm not perfect. I still have money stuff. I still have relationship stuff. But the difference is that I'm showing up for it now. I'm not just letting it run in the background. I'm facing it, and I'm facing it with love and not judgment. And that's the difference. That's the difference. And to me, you know, when I first heard about awakening, it was like, oh, when you wake up, everything is better, and your relationships are better. And like, and like, that just has not been my experience yet. Maybe we'll get there.
Yeah.
But, but I have more peace with myself. I have more love for myself. I am kinder to myself, and I understand what I can control and what I can't. Literally this morning, I was like, I will not fight the wave. I will not fight. I will not entangle myself in the how. I will flow with ease and grace with the how, and I will focus on the what, because I know the what is assured.
I love that.
You know, because one of the downloads that I got was, we choose where we go, the creator decides how we get there. So you can decide, you know, this is the next logical step for me, but how you get there will maybe complete chaos. And it's about navigating when it doesn't look, because we want things to be very A, B, C, D. And that's just not how creation works. That's not how vibrations align.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's
stuck in that logical mind aspect can be such a weird prison. And when it doesn't work out, you know, and not allowing our heart, you know, or our soul, however you want to think about it, to have that creative, you know, feminine dance, you know, element of that creation too, when it's all stuck up here.
Yes.
It's very constricting. But that's how our society is created, is okay, strategic plan, and here we go, and here's the to-do list, and dot, 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 and yeah.
Well, and you know what else is really, really terrible about that? We are taught that this is what success is, right? And now we're in a place where the energy doesn't support that.
Yeah.
So you can follow that plan all day long, but if you don't know how to flow, you are going to be very frustrated. Yeah. Very, very frustrated, because, you know, I have times where I'm like, I want to do a live. Don't have anything to talk about. Okay, I know I have a group session coming up. Don't have anything to talk about. You know, and it literally, there are times when I have to get on. I just have to get on the call, and then it will download.
Yeah.
And if I didn't trust that it would come, if you don't have trust in that flow, you're just going to struggle. Like, I'm literally seeing someone just in the ocean, just struggling. Like, it's the difference between fighting the current and floating with it.
Yeah.
That's the struggle. And that's what this full moon is bringing up, I feel like. It's just really saying, like, who will you serve, your heart or your head? Mm-hmm. And for me, like, I spent a lot of years serving my head, and it's a crazy place to be, because your head just doesn't know everything. You just can't, you can only know what you know, right? And so you're basically seeing through the ego's lens, which is a very small percentage of reality. When I started to realize that we don't live in the reality, we live in a reality, and we can choose which reality we choose to reside in, that's when I turned the news off. That's when I limited my access to social media. Like, I still don't have a big social media presence, just because I literally am so sensitive. I feel the energies. I feel all of that chaos swirling around. And so I'm like, sometimes I have to step back from it. And so, because I need, for my own well-being, to be in my own little bubble where I create my reality, where, you know, and it works for me. People are kind to me and my children. Things fall into place for me. When I start to focus on things that are happening out there, that's when things fall apart.
Wow. Yeah. What an important recognition to make.
Huge. And I feel like that's really, you know, it is about finding God. The spiritual journey is about finding God, but it is about honoring God in you, honoring the God that is the you that God created, right? Not the you that society created. And so to be that, that's to be our unique and divine expression. And so for me, I'm kind of awkward, I'm kind of weird, but I can also be really, extroverted and really kind of flirtatious and, and just embracing all of this, like, that is the universe that is me. I exist in a lot of different spaces and dimensions, and being able to be okay with that and not say I have to be, I love that. I was talking to a woman yesterday and she was like, "Oh, you colored your hair." And I said, "Yeah." And she was like, "It's really pretty." And she was like, "It's a lot of work." I said, "No, not really." I was like, it just really was the confidence to be able to do it. I was like, but now I love it. Like, I feel like I'm Punky Brewster.
So fun. So fun.
Yes. And to be able to set, to let go of, oh, I'm 43. I should look. Says who?
Screw the shoulds. I'm so sick of shoulds. Yeah.
Let me tell you, I eliminated should and ought to from my vocabulary completely because I realized it was slavery. It was bondage.
Yep.
You can't do anything, and you can't do anything about the past. All you can do is in this moment. And if I am present with myself, if I embrace myself, then that opens timelines for me where I can be more of that. That opens options for me where I can be more of that. But when I say I should, guess what timeline that opens? The timeline where you get to be that should. I don't want to do that. I think that there's just so much life to experience and so much love in just the simple things that if we can get out of our heads and really be in our hearts, life is magical. It's not easy, and I think that's another part of the spiritual journey that I'm learning, that I can handle it. I prayed for grace and ease for so long, because I was like, I'm tired. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of it being hard. I just want things to drop into place for me. And when I stood in my power to be able to face it, to be able to say to myself, honey, you have faced all of these things so far, and you've gotten through it. You've survived 100%.
Yep.
100%. Even when you needed to cry, that was okay. You've survived 100%. You can handle the next thing. You can handle the next thing. And that's when I started to recognize the actual grace and ease that was already there.
Yep. And the courage and strength that's created when it does feel hard. And we keep moving.
And we keep moving. Well, and I think there's also courage in, I think in the new age community and the create your own reality community, there's a lot of this, like, you've got to stay positive. You got to keep your vibration high. That's just a whole other matrix. You move from one matrix to the other. When you can flow with how your body is feeling, when you realize your body has its own energetic and emotional system that you get to navigate, when you realize, like, okay, like yesterday, if I had said, no, I'm an oracle of divine love, I need to be vibrating high, I can't have this breakdown, I wouldn't have had the breakthrough that I had today. I wouldn't have been able to say, you know what? Lightworker rage is a real thing. Lightworker disappointment is a real thing. And when you tap into it, you can open another part of yourself. These barriers we come up to are just doorways, gateways to other parts of our own expansion. And when we deny ourselves that, we keep ourselves small. And then, who knows? Like, I have a very big vision for my life. I want to be a wealth creator for other people. I want to be an investor, in other light workers. And I can't do that playing small.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, I think if you, yes, the vision will pull you, but compassion, patience, love for yourself. One of the things that I say to myself a lot, what would I say to my client if she was going through this? I would have immeasurable compassion for her.
Oh, good point. Absolutely.
So I give that to myself, and it may just be mind tricks.
Whatever works.
But I'm happier. but I'm happier. And that's what I realized. This is not about finding a formula. And I think there's a lot of people who are selling a formula. I think that was a stage that we're moving out of, thankfully. This is about finding your own path for what makes you happy, for what fulfills you. And so you pick up a piece from here and you pick up a piece from there, and, you let something go. And, and it's just this beautiful dance of creating your own mosaic for your own life and for your own self. Oh, this beautiful little blue bird just landed in front of me.
I love it. There's no one size fits all for what that looks like. And even trying to take one and replicate it for someone else still is going to be an uncomfortable fit. And being okay with that.
Yeah. I went to Sedona, and I think that's why it's so important to be in nature. Because if you look in nature, there's no clones in nature. Even when they're clones, they're not clones. You know what I mean? Like everything is unique in nature. And I was at the vortexes, and we crossed over the state line, and I was blubbering just because it felt like the heart of God. It just was, I was just overwhelmed with this energy. And as I'm walking and hiking up to the vortexes, God is speaking to me and telling me, you have not been wounded by your journey. You have not been damaged, because I felt very damaged in that moment. You've not been damaged. You've been evolved. Let it evolve you. And this gorgeous little juniper was sitting there, because the vortexes twist the trees. They grow in these spirals. And she was like, there is no other juniper tree like me. These energies didn't damage me. They made me unique and special, and I'm gorgeous. And she was so full of herself. If you want to get a dose of self-confidence, talk to a tree.
Yep.
Trees are so like, I'm beautiful. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you think, but like, I am magnificent. Like, I don't. The trees will tell you, like, there is nothing like me. There is no energy or entity on this earth, that houses the life that I house, that is a home to the beautiful beings that I am home to, that gives this gorgeous energy and takes in light and gives back oxygen, and we're just plants. We're just plants. We get caught up in all of this, all of this classification that science has given us. But, we're all just plants, and we are watered by love and light and divinity. And when we can recognize ourselves as unique and individual creations, God doesn't make cookie cutter stuff, because God is not interested in cookie cutter. God is interested in exploring and experiencing herself. And she's not afraid. She's not afraid. And when you tap into that, like, I remember I was going through stuff, and this same period of just basically my whole life falling apart, my spiritual ego falling apart. And I remember feeling how happy God was to be me. How much she loved who I am and being who I am, and how unique and special. And I realized, like, God sees something in me that I don't even see yet.
Yeah.
And whenever I would start to feel bad about myself, I would say, my higher self is really happy being me. Like, so tickled to be in this incarnation, not just to be my soul, but to be Alayna. And I think a lot of times we cling to, well, my soul is magnificent, even if my humanness is broken. But it's not broken. It's an experience. It's an experience. It's an involvement. It's a curriculum. It's a lesson. It's, it's all of these things. And there's always good that comes from it. But we have to be willing to sit with it and really let it teach us. And I think that's where I think society has done us a disservice. We don't let grief teach us. We don't let anger teach us. We see anger as power instead of, I'm trying to think of a different word than teacher, but an experience, an opener. We don't know how to really embody these negative, quote unquote, feelings in a way that's really powerful and affirming without being damaging. And we can only do that when we start to love ourselves. Because when we love ourselves, we don't have the desire or the need to punish ourselves or to punish other people. Because when we give ourselves the grace to say, I'm doing the best I can in this hot ass mess. I'm doing the best I can. I understand. And you know what? I did better yesterday, but today I still did the best I could. When we don't give ourselves that grace, we can't give it to other people. We can't give to ourselves. We can't give to other people what we don't give to ourselves. That's the bottom line.
Absolutely. And it feels with that, we've kind of gone full circle in a way, starting out hot ass mess, coming back to hot ass mess. Before we go, I'd like to ask you two questions. Number one, if you were to boil down like your fundamental beliefs to its very essence, when it comes to the divine, what do you believe?
That God's idea of perfect is very different from our own.
Ooh.
And that God rejoices in what is, because she knows the end result. And we just have to flow. That is like float on the currents of life. Flow with it, be present, and then just be love. Be love. Love yourself. Start there. Start there. I started my journey trying to love everybody but me to prove that I was loved. And it took tearing apart my life to finally say, okay, fine, I'll start to figure out how to love myself. I'll figure it out. But, you know, I was telling a friend of mine, I said, you know, it's when you tell someone to love themselves who has no concept of that, you know, I had no concept of what it was to love myself. That's like telling somebody, that's like showing somebody the word iguana and then saying, this is an iguana. That doesn't mean anything. They have no point of reference, you know? And so I think what self-love, when people say, you got to love yourself, you got to love yourself. Well, if someone has never seen that demonstrated and they don't know what that looks like, they don't know what that is, especially those who have come out of, like myself, who've come out of narcissistic, you know, upbringing and codependency, you don't know what that is. And so it's really starting with the baby steps. Can I let this mess be okay? Can I just let it be okay? Okay, I can let it be okay. Can I just have compassion for myself? Okay. Can I just be okay with this? And then it grows, you know? And I'm a work in progress. I'm a work in progress. And so are you. And it's all beautiful. It's all beautiful.
Appreciating that rather than appreciating the work in progress, seeing the beauty in that, instead of thinking that there's something wrong, that we're not at some mythical, perfect destination already.
Exactly.
You know, that doesn't exist.
It doesn't, because our souls are ever evolving. God is ever evolving. And so there's always going to be some new level. You know, have you ever done that thing? You've manifested, waited for years, and you finally manifested. And then within 6 months, you're like, okay, what's next?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yep. That's cool. And
yeah, exactly. And so it's unhooking from that addiction to not progress. Unhooking from the addiction to what is the word? Creating, you know, and seeing that every day you're creating, and how I feel, not what's out here, but how I feel. You know, that was a really important download that came to me again today. The inner dictates the outer, and we want to control the outer without having to do the work of controlling the inner.
Oh, I love that. The inner dictates the outer. Yeah, that's one of the things I teach, preach, whatever, as well. Just the idea that how we feel on the inside will ultimately influence what we see on the outside.
So important.
Yeah.
It's
I appreciate your time so much. If people wanted to connect with you, what's the best way for people to learn more and possibly even enjoy your incredible service?
Well, you can connect with me on Facebook or on Instagram. I'm at the Alayna Love, ALAYNA LOVE, or my website, alaynalove.com. I currently am still enrolling for my group. So if you want to come in and join a really cool, fun group of ladies who we just love each other and we support one another, or if you want to work with me one-on-one, I literally hold your hand through your spiritual journey. I literally make myself available to you. You will hear kids crying. If you catch me on video, you'll probably see a kid butt, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yep, that's life right there. Yep,
That is
keeping it
life.
real.
But what I promise is that you will feel loved and you will feel supported, and that I will be there every step of the way. And so it's my honor and my pleasure and my joy to do this work. It's my joy.
Well, thank you so much for stepping into the role, for owning and embodying the whole idea of being an oracle of divine love, and for spending and sharing your time with us here today. Your wisdom is amazing.
You're
And
so
I'm grateful to
wonderful.
call you friend. So
Oh, I feel the same way. I'm so grateful that we connected in the material, because I know we've been connected in the spiritual forever.
yep.
So thank you for having me. I have so loved this. So this is a beautiful thing you're doing. Any way I can support you, please let me know.
I appreciate that. I look forward to figuring out how we can play together in the future. That'll
For
be
sure. For sure.
Well, you go have a wonderful day and enjoy your new home. I'm
Thank you so
excited for you and your mountain
Thank
view.
you.
Wow.
Yes, my little mountain cabin. I'm so
Yep.
excited. It's absolutely perfect for us. So it's all
Beautiful.
divine. All right. Love you so much. Have a great day.
You bet. Thank you. And for everybody there in Dirt Road Divinity World, thank you for joining in with us. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week.